Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody had enjoyed their lunch and maybe coffee. In the interest of time, I will continue directly with the panelists to give us a brief introduction about what they do, who they are, and then we'll continue with our questions.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. How are you guys? After lunch, you seem to be very quiet. My name is Yared. I'm from Visa Ethiopia. Look after visa business in the market.
Good afternoon. I'm Selamyhun from Ministry of Innovation and Technology.
Hi, my name is Yafet Girum. I'm the founder and CEO of Dimmer Technologies, desktop manufacturing service provider. I am also a consultant at Adefris in rapid prototyping and fabrication.
All right, pleasure to be here. My name is Nohe Fekade. I am the co-founder and CEO at EPhone. EPhone is a startup company based in Addis. We're building a single interface where users would be able to access all telecom, mobile money, and mobile banking services in one place. A pleasure to be here again. We'll talk more.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Selam, a serial entrepreneur and co-founder of Birrama. We are working to revitalize the consumption value chain from production to consumption. And I hope this panel will give us a better understanding of the startup ecosystem. It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. Our discussion is about the startup ecosystem. As you know, the private sector is the key driver of any economy. And for the future, what we look forward to is the entrepreneurs and the startups. So the discussion is going to be about the startups. So throwing my first question to the startups here, Selam and Nohe, please tell us about any opportunities that you foresee and any challenges that you have while undertaking your startups. So opportunities and challenges.
Well, I mean, the ecosystem itself is an opportunity for entrepreneurs, right? For me personally, the first opportunity that I've received was from a company called Blue Moon. It's an incubation hub. And that was the first opportunity that I got. I wouldn't say that was the biggest, but it was the starting point and a gateway for this journey that I had for the past 5 years. So the other opportunity that we have is, as a country, we have a very big population, and also it's a new to this industry, and having this kind of population gives us a big market. That's one of the opportunities as a startup we have here.
And Nohe, similar question.
All right. Well, I don't know where to start from because I think there is a lot of opportunity in Ethiopia. As a starter, as a tech startup based in Ethiopia, the first thing I would say is it's very early for everything. We just have our second telecom. The banks are just moving to the digital system. I mean, most of the things that are happening all over the world are not fully integrated or fully implemented here. So just by copy and pasting whatever works in the other world and implementing it here in the country where we have 70% of the population under 35, I think that by itself is an opportunity. The second thing I would say for startups, the opportunity I would say would be less competition. If it was in other markets, even in African markets, but a bit developing, you would face a lot of competition, people trying to do what you're doing as quickly as possible. And it's a bit tough. But here in Ethiopia, you can take your time, you can go through what you're doing, you can pivot, you can iterate, so you can actually provide an actual value or people, something that people can actually utilize and enjoy using for. The challenge is the same thing as the opportunities. There's a lot of challenge. again, the opportunity itself became a challenge in some way because some of the services and some of the things that would allow you to run your startup in a very smooth way. It hasn't been developed, the infrastructures, let's say the cloud services and everything we had to use from abroad, which now Tele started, which is a very good thing because you would pay in BIR, all of that can change. But again, there are a few things starting from talent acquisition, creating the partnerships, finding, even building as a startup, right? You have an idea that you want to build, but you might not have the capabilities or the skills to build it. So you have to be the one to take the time to learn and then actually build your product by itself. So I kind of balance out by itself. But again, I am a very optimistic person. So I see more of the opportunities that is out there and the room for what it gives us for startups. This is a good opportunity for us to, without no competition, to move forward, to move fast and actually develop something we thought we would work in the world. Yeah.
Great. Moving to Yafet, you are from Creative Hub Ethiopia, an enabler in itself. So you can tell us about the role that enablers like yourself play in this for startups to further their product services and even further to scale their products and services.
Okay. Wonderful question. So the way I see enablers is like a factory that streamlines the process of a startup from just an idea to becoming feasible, successful, ideally a unicorn. So essentially it's a mapping of what startups need to do and what kind of resources needs to be provided for those startups in order for the chances or the probability of them succeeding to be extremely high. And one of the main things that enablers right now are doing is providing them with different various tools that that enables them to prototype for dirt cheap money and to test the market with it. If the idea fails, then they could just move on without little cost recurred. But if the idea succeeds, but the market have some comments on it, they could iterate and ideally find that right product market fit. So that's how I see the roles of enablers. I think a good question here to ask, I don't have the answers, but a good question to ask is, I have yet to see an enabler that's completely sustainable without actually third-party intervention in terms of funding. So I would love for you guys to ideate on that topic. Have I answered all the questions?
Yeah. But your question, I think we'll pose it to the others.
Yes.
Okay. Moving to Selamyhun, the government being also one of the major stakeholders in the startup ecosystem, what initiatives do you have from Mint's perspective, to support startups, to support these enablers, and so on?
Okay. I think whether this question is timely or not, most of the answer has been provided by actually the event, what that's going on in Science Museum. I think after the kickoff by the Prime Minister, I think we've seen some sort of commitment from the government side in terms of actually promoting startups. But as one of the startups said, the ecosystem is yet in its activation life cycle. It's clear. We worked out with startup Girum last year to measure the ecosystem and understand where it is now. We have found out that it's obvious, of course, but it's not nascent stage. That means it's in a very early stage. That means it's mainly characterized by disconnected ecosystem with no obvious funding schemes and lack of talents, startup talents, and mostly lack of institutions that actually enables the ecosystem like custom builders. So these are the four major factors among the 9 factors. So definitely this is an obvious factor. So this is for me obvious. So what are we planning to move forward, in fact, to activate this ecosystem and move to the global life cycle, as there are mainly 4 or 5 custom life cycles for startup ecosystems to go through. So ours is yet in the activation life cycle, and we need to actually move to the globalization life cycle. So what are we expect to do, and when are we going to achieve that is not an easy question. So given the context this way, what we're actually trying to do is actually creating, first of all, a mechanism to let ecosystem players and government agencies, other government agencies, not only Mint, to understand this business. It's very confusing for most businesses to categorize even themselves as startups or SMEs. There are many beneficiaries, there are companies. So what differentiates these all businesses, and why are we creating a different ecosystem for some businesses and why not for others? This should be a very important question, and definitely the first thing to answer is actually to differentiate these beneficiaries from other forms of conventional businesses. So we need to actually create an awareness platform to promote this beneficiary first. Once we have the grip of that beneficiary, of course, what should we do differently to address the needs of those beneficiaries? This is the next step. Now, I think after this month, I think the beneficiary is well now promoted, and from the top to the bottom, everyone talks about startups. So now most ecosystem players have started asking questions. Who are these startups? What are you saying? Why are they different from other businesses? These are yet the question being initiated by different actors. We expected this because we tried this for several years, and now at least the beneficiary is somehow coming into picture. So the first thing that we're doing is actually creating an awareness, and the second one is actually how do we shape this ecosystem? We need regulatory framework. So of those regulatory frameworks, one is the Startup Act. Of course, now it is in the form of regulation. It is coming up soon. We finalized based on the comment given by the councils of ministers. Technically, it is approved, but there are some steps that needs to move through. And the other important aspect that were actually communicated last session was the 10 or 9 policy decisions, including tax, dollar issues, even licensing issue, and even IP and other factors. And among those actually peculiar question is, how do we know and how do we actually provide this benefit, and to whom should we give this benefit? That was the most important question actually raised by most of even the government officers while we had a discussion. So we told them there will be a label provisioning system where one is labeled as a startup or not, and there is a mechanism actually to retain that label and even to be revoked when it's not appropriately used. And there are criteria that actually differentiating from other beneficiaries. So this label provision will give you the guarantee that these are startups and you need to invest on them. And of course, this kind of label provisioning system is not new. It is there in Nigeria, Tunisia, and other countries. So definitely Now Mint is taking the lead actually to start the label provisioning application process. So once through some process, legal process, we have identified these beneficiaries. We know what benefits package should be availed to this category. So this is a kind of ecosystem that we're trying to promote, and the government has every clarity necessary to move this custom forward. The most important element, in fact, is actually getting into action. That's not easy, as it seems. And the other aspects, actually, the fund, Visa card, may go through it. It's not an easy task also.
Thank you, Selamyhun. Moving to Yared, from Visa's perspective as a finance, as a company in the finance sector, how could companies within the sectors like yourself be able to help startups? And a follow-up question to that, maybe corporates are usually blamed for not inviting or embracing startups. So not just specific for you, but for corporates, how can they support or incubate startups? So two questions, but first deal with the first one.
Thank you for that question. Really happy to be here. It's a very interesting panel, and I'm glad that I'm here also. We are actually very excited and very enthusiastic about startups. Visa was a startup in 1958, then probably considered the first fintech that can be, that has grown this much. So we as Visa, we understand the hurdles and the challenges that these startups go through. That's the reason we have a lots of programs that really support this, startups and fintechs who are really bringing value to the market. Visa is not a typical card company anymore. It's a payment platform. It's a payment technology company who also believes that as Visa, I don't really provide everything the market needs, but I have the capability and the infrastructure to do that. So the partnership model is the best way to go. So that's the reason why, if you see now recently, in recent years, we have a lots of partnerships with fintechs. We invest in fintechs. Venture capital also is one of the areas that we also participate. So we believe that startups are the kind of, startups are actually the ones who can solve the problem for that country. And we also have an enabling, for any startup, actually, they have to be paid or they will be paying. So for that, we provide enabling environment. We have a lots of incubation and innovation hubs in different continents, including Africa. We have, one sitting in Nairobi at the same time. We can co-create with them. And we have actually multiple, I'm glad you asked this question, because we have multiple programs that we actually support the startup with. One of them is Visa Fast Track program, where these startups, whatever solutions that they created to facilitate payment in the market, they can also integrate with us through a fast track program to be able to use, our well-tested, very secure, really, long and with all the expertise that we have, they can use those products, test it, and then use it. We have a Visa Ready to Launch program as well. That is also an opportunity for them to use Visa development portal, where they can be able to experiment and use Visa product, services, and integrate with their products to be able to create more value and become even international in the process, right? So that is one of the things. And we also have, for example, Visa Everywhere initiative. I think everybody, most of you I see here has participated, especially in the market, in Visa Everywhere initiative, where we invite startups. Actually, they have to be startups and have a prototype, not someone who really already operating and making money out of it. So to encourage these startups to come and compete into that platform. After that, we will collect we cannot do, everything with everybody. So we invite those winners, partner with them, provide them with the technology, mentorship, and also provide opportunity for them to partner with our partners. You've recently seen, our partnership with Ride, right? That is creating partnership for our partners, which are the banks as well. So we give those kinds of opportunities for them, because Visa cannot come and create Ride or create Chapa or, Arif Pay or someone like that. But we can be able to, support them in such a way that we can invest in them, we can share our experiences and the technologies, and we can also, partner them with our businesses all over the world. And there is also an opportunity. There's also another way that we also contribute to the startup business. There's also Visa Foundation. Visa Foundation, what it does is actually at this time, what we do is, create financial inclusion, like invest into or fund those kinds of initiatives, where when you create that kind of environment or fund that, there are many entrepreneurs that will be born out of that, and also the payment ecosystem will at the same time grow. Financial literacy, that is also something that we invest on as a CSR actually. At the same time as Visa social impact as well, we also do that. It is recently, you might probably remember what we have done with STEM Power Ethiopia, who has actually brought 2,600 students to come to an entrepreneur training, partnership, mentorship, and then out of those 2,600 individuals, we have created 60 companies out of that, who has become a startup. So it's not only we go and hunt for startups, we also create them. So for us, that's the kind of value we think we have to add into the market to bring the ecosystem up to the mark and where we can play fairly. I think that answers.
You have a lot of activities personally. I only know a few of them, so we have a lot of homework to do, I guess. Madan, if we have more time, I have a few questions to throw. Okay. In the meantime, you can also prepare. Great. You can also prepare your questions for the startups. No more startups, but for the startups in the panel. Maybe if you can tell us how the ecosystem players have helped you in your journey while you were doing the different startups you were involved in. This is for Selam and Nohe.
Yeah. So yes, we are still startups, because by the definition of being scalable and still iterating and learning from what we're doing. So just to clarify that, because we always have this misconception of startup, SMEs, and corporates. So startup means is scalable business, which is innovative and which is disruptive and innovation. So we still are doing that, and I just wanted to caveat a bit about that when you mentioned you're no longer startups. Coming to your question about what kind of support that we got from the ecosystem itself. Like I said earlier, the first support that I got as a company was from an incubation hub called Blue Moon. And that led to good training, collaboration with different stakeholders that brought different opportunities and people to the table. And that led to for us to know how to tell our story right, and where we get to travel and bring international companies and also customers and whatnot through that process. So, the ecosystem is very small, so there are no such big opportunities that comes with it. But yes, we are here because that small ecosystem was here, and that's where we got our first push and exposure from.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a bit of a story, right? So the current company that we're working on, which is EPhone, before that I ran 2 startups. The first one was in 2015. It was a ride-hailing business. And it was a ride-hailing specifically for students that are traveling outside of Addis. And I don't know, I'm not sure if I was aware the term of startup by itself, right? So we were just friends who were trying to jump on an opportunity that we saw. We were also in the university, and we see a lot of the students need a transportation from their house to directly to the station where the buses wait, so that they could take you to the universities, right? So we just set up. We talked to a few drivers that we know. We had to incorporate it so that we could be legal, and we just jump on it and started providing services, right? So, but then something interesting happened. We get 3 SIM cards for that people to call us and then book whether or not if they want us to pick them. So students, they trust us. We picked a few of them so they understand what's going on, right? But then we wanted to change that number to a short code number so that we could appear more credible. Through that process, we discovered one person who was actually an angel investor. And that was the first time that I heard the term an angel investor, someone who was actually interested in giving you money so that you can pursue your idea. That was pretty awesome. I haven't heard of it before. But then after that, as you can imagine, it no longer worked, the startup. We failed, so many reasons. But again, now I see there is actually a community and people or an ecosystem where they are actually trying to develop this industry called startups, technology, and all of that. So after that, on 2017, at around December, I got incubated in my first incubation center, which was X-Hub, right? X-Hub still exists. It's an incubation center where you would be given a place to work, an internet connection, a mentorship, and then a connection or a network where you could actually try to implement your services with some of their friends and some of the people that they know, right? I've seen a lot of things. A lot of people joined the program. Some of them got disappointed and go out and left. They didn't match their expectation. I don't know if I know there's this thought that you think once you join an incubation center or part of a program, you kind of expect they're just going to make you successful. Once you join, they give you everything that you need. So that's it. It's a done deal for you. But that's not the case. You, as a startup, as a founder, you still are the person who are responsible to get your idea to the ground and even to the moon when you actually take it off, right? But that was very interesting thing to see for me because one, I met other founders that were trying to do the same thing. In fact, I was not technical. So my first products were built by the people that I met in the incubation center, which were technical. So again, this is to say, yes, the ecosystem is not fully developed, but as a startup, I have one thing to say. Just take whatever is available and use it and try to make something out of it. Yes, it lacks a lot of support. It lacks a lot of things that could be possible that you think should be done. But whatever is available, whether it's a space, a table, internet connection, an address that they can give you, take it and start from there. And yes, as someone who's been part of that journey, it really changed how I see things. So I believe that is a contribution by itself. Yeah.
Good points. Entrepreneurs are people who operate with the initial conditions. So that's a very good point. Yafet, since your hub is a kind of a maker space, maybe you can define what a maker space is for people who want elaboration. Why don't we see much of those here in Ethiopia? Maybe you have thought of some ideas around that, so you can share your insights regarding that.
Okay, so for a tiny minority of you guys that don't know what makerspace is, makerspace is a space that contains different desktop manufacturing tools like 3D printers, laser cutters, small CNC machines, vacuum forming machines, so that these startups don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to China to prototype an idea and test it in the market. So these startups utilize these maker spaces to ideate, to prototype, ideate, and check the product market fit of their products. And sometimes it's not just only for prototypes, but it could also make actual products that gets to the consumer or the customer. So now that we have maker spaces definition out of the way, there are quite a few places that's popping up. One of the prominent ones, it was Orange Digital Center, which was based in ICT Park, which is now closed for a while. Currently, as per my knowledge, there are two spaces, maker spaces, that are actively working with startups and providing them with the tools aforementioned. So one of those maker spaces is Creative Hub Ethiopia, which is around Mexico. We provide all these services to our members for free, but we do that because we are a PPP, public-private partnership, and we are heavily funded by UNIDO, and I said this as an implementation manager. So these startups, once they join these maker spaces, they receive consulting on what limitations these tools have, what kind of tools might help them in terms of optimizing their manufacturing line per se, different services, how to make things cheaper for them, how to make it more appealing for customers. So different mentorship tools. The other one is one that's being initiated by Mint. Selamyhun is here. It's called Innobiz. It's being created by in collaboration with Koika, and it is fascinating. If you are half as interested in maker spaces as I am, you need to go and see it because it's a beauty. It's wonderful. It's around. It's in ICT Park as well, and they have so many tools that it will paralyze you. And it's all for free as long as you're a startup and as long as they accept you in their programs. So that's, and makerspaces have a huge impact in reducing the resources required to reach commercialization of products. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Yafet. Before proceeding, let me give the opportunity to the audiences. If you have any questions, since we have some 7 minutes, let's do that first and then we'll move on. Any questions from the floor? Tired people after in the afternoon. Maybe I'll move to Selamyhun. You have touched a lot of points earlier regarding the initiatives that the government puts, and you mentioned about, you know, who the beneficiaries are going to be, how to define the startups and so on. So if you have any pointers to enablers, ecosystem players, how to structure themselves in regards to your initiatives, how to position themselves towards that and so on, it will be a good opportunity to do that now.
Okay. Regarding these ecosystem players, ecosystem enablers, come and join us on Saturday morning at Science Museum. We have a session there. We're going to, I think, create some awareness on startup ecosystem players, quality standardization framework developed with GISN and European Business Network. That framework, as my friend mentioned before, of course, tell the story of the ecosystem players, what's going on currently, and how are they effective. It tells you every story. And we found out that, in fact, ecosystem builders are not at the level that we expect them to be. Of course, it's obvious. It's expected. It's not. In an ecosystem like us, it's expected. But we need to meet a standard, and we need to support them through that standard. So we're classifying them in 3 categories. One is for early stage startups. Of course, they have to come up with product market fit. So for that, we need different support. Even in the financing scheme, we need not investment. In fact, we need seed funds. So if you move up the ladder to post early stage and late, you need a capital market restructuring, for instance, if you talk about investment. So there must be different capacity of ecosystem builders, incubation programs, acceleration programs, in its program reputation as well. So we're inviting programs like Seed Star or programs like, if you mention, for instance, Y Combinator. These kind of programs actually are known for their success in terms of actually producing successful startups or unicorns. So we need to bring that. We have also a session now at 4 p.m. with UNDP. We're trying to bring Timbuktu here. So that's also another program that we're going to work with UNDP. So such program actually shapes the whole ecosystem. That's how you shape. One is actually creating standard, and the other is regulatory framework and incentive package. And the other, for startups, of course, they have to start actually questioning the right form of questions. And when they apply, they have to be sure that they actually get the level. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. And they need to join some ecosystem builders or programs to actually get that support. So definitely, in preparation for level or pre-level, there must be some process and awareness programs. Of course, we are going to launch a portal for registration. It will be online in its entire process. So that's what's coming up. Attend the sessions as much as possible.
Thank you, Selamyhun. So before wrapping up, if you have any final last comments, I will move in this direction and give the floor, the opportunity to Yared. Any final remarks, insights that you'd like to share?
Yeah, thank you. Really interesting. One of the things that I wanted to highlight is a thank you to the to the policymaker, because you guys have been doing a lot of great work. What has happened in the startup Ethiopia ecosystem, the policy amendment is, and understanding and listening to the questions and then responding. It was amazing. That is encouraging, and let's keep doing that. For the startups, I want to encourage you. You are going to be the only one to solve Ethiopian problems. Ethiopian problems can be solved by Ethiopian youth. So keep on doing that. And companies like us are going to be working with you to support you. Our office is always open to discuss what you have and then be able to support you wherever we can. So let's move on. It's very encouraging, exciting. Digital 2025 is data that we have heard recently is mind blowing, and Ethiopia is a rising star. So let's contribute to that and make history. That's what I want to say.
A last chance for any questions from the audience. Okay, Selam, last remarks.
I thought
If any, and I'm not pinpointing, you can pass it to Yafet.
Okay. I just want to say that these ecosystem supporters or enablers are not just here to enable startups, but just enable the entire youth or workforce in general. So if you want to learn something, go to the startups. Go to the enablers. They have mentorship sessions. They have panel discussions. They have events that equip anyone with a hefty knowledge about what Ethiopia is all about in terms of startups and ecosystems, how to analyze a certain business sector. It's just, you're gonna learn a lot of quite useful things, even if you don't have a startup at the exactly right now. So network with people, mingle. Don't be afraid to ask questions. This is for the youth in the audience. It certainly has helped me, and it will definitely help you too. Thank you very much.
30 seconds to Nohe or Selam.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, in a place where resources are finite, the fight for a holistic solution, for partnership is real. So I call upon for all the stakeholders to work on in collaboration and partnership. For the government, like to put the proclamation on the ground, we really needed it yesterday. So we've been hearing that for the past 3 years, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be happening soon, for sure, again. So we need that. Like, I mean, the paradigmatic example for this is that M-Pesa, right? 12, 13 years back, we had similar project, startups that had similar projects, which are no longer in the ecosystem. Even if we had, like, you know, the fintech ecosystem then, would have been one of the competitors in the international scenario. So yes, we need the proclamation now. And for the enablers, please try to create champions, you know, because like for that matter, if we create champions, more stakeholder players will join it. Investors will come, international investor will come. So we need to create champions as a whole. Like we need to focus on handful startups and specific industries for sure, knowing what we have as a resource. And we need to focus on creating champions. That's why, I mean, my good mentor always says, run, because then so that Yimru's Iftar could win the, the world record. And we have Derartu Tulu, so that now we have some right. So we need to create champions in the startup ecosystem so that we can have, we can like say we have a handful and more unicorns. So yeah, all in all, to create the better future we want, let's work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. One word that comes to mind when we talk of startups is execution. All my panelists do execute in their respective domains. Looking forward to many more successes. Please, a big round of applause.
Thanks so much.